सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। O Lord, let all be happy, let all be healthy, let all attain goodness, let none get misery. Om peace, peace, peace. This is the prayer being recited by thousands of people, millions of people from thousands of years in India. That is Indian culture. Mind you, there is no bracket there. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchid dukbhag bhavet. Let all be happy. There is no bracket there. Irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, nationality, Indian culture is basically a spiritual culture. Indian culture is basically a global culture. And that is why there is going to be more and more of global impact. And that is the culture of the future for the whole global world. The whole world has been united as never before because of the communication technology. It has become a global village. But where is the global peace? Global peace cannot come till we have a global culture, till we have a global civilization, till we say goodbye to all sorts of fanaticism, sectarianism, and bigotry, as told by Swami Vivekananda in his historic speech at the World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago on 11th September 1893. Mind you, that was also 9/11. But we did not listen to his message of harmony of religion, so there was another 9/11. After 108 years exactly, in 2000, and the Twin World Trade Centers were destroyed. That was as a result of fanaticism. Anyway, better late than never. Even now, let us accept the message of Indian spiritual culture, that is a global culture which always talks about Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, which always talks about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Thousands of years back, we told the whole globe is our family. Now, in the age of globalization, that is the only culture that will survive. The whole globe is one now. And we have been talking about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam from thousands of years. Ekam Sadvipra Bahuda Vadanti. That is the specialty of Indian culture. So many faiths all here in India. Unity in diversity. So many languages. Hundreds of languages. All various types of people, various types, various faiths, living together from thousands of years in peace. That is the Indian spiritual culture, an inclusive culture. That is the need of the globalized world. That is the need of the globalization. And that is why there is already a very big global impact of Indian spiritual culture on the whole world. The process started, the conquest of global civilization started, of global civilization by the Indian spiritual culture started by Swami Vivekananda in 1893 with the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. It is still continuing. And we have come a long way from that time. This interfaith harmony is now getting more and more attention, importance. Swami Vivekananda delivered his historic speech in 1893. For 100 years, nothing happened. In 1993, they thought this Parliament of Religion should be revived. And so, in 1993, the centenary of Swami Vivekananda's speeches of Chicago was held all over the world. Can you understand? The centenary not of a person, the centenary of a speech. That historic speech is considered even today one of the greatest speeches ever given by anybody in the whole world history. And so the centenary was celebrated again in Chicago, and it was thought that the world's Parliament of Religion should be again reformed, and the committee was reformed, and the new name was given was Parliament of World's Religion. The second parliament was held in Chicago only in 1993, and it was decided that every 5 years there should be these parliaments in various parts of the world. The sixth Parliament of World's Religion was in Salt Lake City in America. The seventh Parliament of Religions was in Toronto from 1 to 7 November 2018. And I had the privilege of addressing both the parliaments. And you will be surprised how Indian spiritual culture is advancing. The state of Illinois, where Chicago is located, the state of Illinois declared 11 September as Swami Vivekananda Day. The Canadian government declared the month of November, the year as month of November is Indian Heritage Month, because Diwali was there at that time. And can you believe the World Parliament of Religions, the Parliament of World's Religion Committee, the Parliament of World's Religion celebrated Diwali in the convention hall. And I was told to give speech in keynote address on Hinduism and Swami Vivekananda. And in the convention hall was Goddess Lakshmi, and the religious leaders of whole of Toronto were invited, apart from 10,000 delegates coming from 200 countries of 120 faiths. They had come. Apart from that, few more religious leaders of Toronto were invited to participate in that Diwali celebration. Indian spiritual culture is making a very big global impact already. And it's going on. On 25th September 2014, the Prime Minister of India submitted a proposal to the United Nations General Assembly that 21st June should be celebrated as International Yoga Day. Normally it takes a few years for the resolution to pass, but the United Nations General Assembly passed the resolution. Not only that, it did not pass with majority, it was passed unanimously. Out of 177 countries which were present, not a single country opposed, and the resolution was passed unanimously that every year, 21st June, should be celebrated as International Yoga Day. Now, do you know the happiness industry is the 5th largest industry in the world? These yoga mats meditation mats, meditation workshops, the yoga workshops, the yoga training, and all of that inclusive. Because people are in midst of search of peace. All the people all over the world are in search of peace. It is yoga and meditation is giving them that. That is why there was a newspaper item, Americans going gaga over yoga. Americans going gaga over yoga. And that the Time magazine brought out a special issue in which in the front page there was Hollywood actors meditating, and the cover page story was, the story's name was Just Say Om. And that was told 20 millions of Americans are regularly meditating now. You cannot avoid meditation in America. Boardrooms, classrooms, airports, railway platforms, everywhere there are meditation chambers. In 2010, when I went to America for the first time, I saw in United Nations building in New York, at one corner, there was a signboard, meditation chamber. A beautiful meditation chamber was made in a United Nations building. So meditation and yoga are spreading all over the world and are giving peace of mind to the world. And that is why there is a big global impact of the Indian spiritual culture, which is all inclusive, which was very spiritual. Now, in the field of management, the fourth wave of management is slowly creeping in. As you know, the first wave of management was the British style of management, when Taylor's method of measurement, work measurement was in vogue. The second wave of management was the American style of management, when Peter Drucker became the guru of all. The third wave of management was the Japanese style of management, when TQM, total quality management, zero defect, came in vogue. And now, slowly but steadily, the fourth wave of management is sweeping all over the world, not only in India, but all over the world. What is that? The style of management based on Indian culture. That is sweeping all over the world. The news magazine being brought out from New York brought out a special issue on that, and it has given the new term to that particular management wave. The name is Karma Capitalism, where it is told many corporate companies in America are now adopting yoga, meditation, and the message of Bhagavad Gita. And why it is coming? Why this fourth wave of management based on spiritual culture, Indian culture is coming? There are many reasons. Number one, globalization has come to stay, at least on economic front. The liberalization has come. It is an open market. There is a tough competition. And because of the tough competition, there is a lot of stress. According to Chicago-based Research Corporation, 40% of the companies in America are having regular courses on stress management. And the traditional methods of stress management, or the Western models of stress management, are not working. And that is why they are coming to Indian spiritual culture. What are the Western models? Western models are voodoo dolls, head diaries, punching bags. They are working, they do work, but for a short time. The Western psychologists say, you got stress. Do you know why? Because when you do not express your feelings, they go into your subconscious mind and create stress and then create strain. And then you get high BP and bypass surgery and all that. So you should avoid. You should ventilate your feelings. My God, if I ventilate my feelings, I will lose my job. Because when the boss is coming coming out from his house, his wife gives a good thrashing. Now he can't tell anything to his wife, so he comes to the office and thrashes, fires left and right. I also feel like paying back in the same coin. I also know also how to pay back in the same coin. But I can't speak, because if I speak, then I will lose my job. So what happens? These emotions go inside my subconscious mind and create all this stress and strain. So the modern psychologists say you should ventilate your feelings. My God, if I ventilate my feelings, I will lose my job. Don't worry, we have got a solution. What is the solution? Go to the market, purchase voodoo dolls. Allow me that pins are also available. And come to your house, come to your room, close the doors and windows of your room, put the voodoo doll on the table. Now, write down the name of your boss or your wife or your mother-in-law, whomsoever you want to pour your anger, and then start hitting. There are blue pins available for injury. Black pins are available also for serious injury. And if you want to murder your boss, red pins are also available. Just give a red pin and the boss is murdered. What a wonderful peace of mind. You can have a nice sleep without any tranquilizer. But the problem is, next day the boss is again sitting on the chair. What to do? So these methods, voodoo dolls, punching bags, head diaries, they are not working. That is why the management field is coming at the feet of Indian culture. That is meditation and yoga for getting their stress out, for stress management. Yoga and meditation is the best method of stress management. And that is why they are coming to Indian culture. Another thing, because of the tough competition, what is required is efficiency. And Bhagavad Gita says, Yoga karmasu kaushalam. What is yoga? It is dexterity in action, efficiency in action. And that is what we get from the message of Bhagavad Gita, which is a product of Indian spiritual culture. Not only that, we also get from the fourth wave of management, that is Indian spiritual culture, is the concept of servant leadership. Though the word was coined by Robert Greenleaf when he wrote a book, Servant Leadership, now all over the world, all over the globe, the leadership that is being practiced or that is being preached as the ideal leadership is servant leadership. But much before Robert Greenleaf started servant leadership or coined the word servant leadership was practiced thousands of years back by Sri Krishna. You know, he became a charioteer of Arjuna, a servant leader. He does not himself call himself a boss. He serves others. He has no ego. He is unselfish. All these states are available in the great leadership of Sri Krishna. In our own times, Swami Vivekananda practiced this servant leadership. You know, when he came back from America, whatever little money he got after delivering lectures, everything he gave to his Guru Bhai Swami Brahmananda and said, now I have become free. So far I was having the burden of that money. And then when he started Ramakrishna Mission, he did not start in his own name. He did not give the name Vivekananda Mission. No, he gave the name of his Guru, Ramakrishna Mission. And who was the first president of Ramakrishna Merchant Mission? Swami Brahmananda was made the first president. He did not accept any power and position. He said, if my Guru Bhais tell me from tomorrow my work is to clean latrines, I will do that job very joyfully. What an example of servant leadership. And because he practiced servant leadership, when he passed away, when he left his body in meditation on 4 July 1902, there were only 5 centers in India and 1 center in New York in America. Now, there are 258 centers in the world. 65 out of India, rest in India. And apart from that, 1,000 centers waiting for affiliation with Ramakrishna Mission. We have shortage of monks, so we cannot affiliate them. So many centers all over the world doing a lot of humanitarian activities going on. Normally, when a leader passes away, his obituary note is the last note. But the centenary of Swami Vivekananda was celebrated in a big way, and the 150th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda was celebrated in 10 times grander way. And I'm sure the double century of Swami Vivekananda will be still more grander. And can you imagine what not only Swami Vivekananda, but his speech that he delivered in Chicago, the centenary was celebrated, and then was celebrated even in UNESCO. And the UNESCO chairman, Dr. Federico Mayer, was asked this question: what is the justification of UNESCO celebrating the centenary of a speech delivered by Swami Vivekananda 100 years back in Chicago in the Paris headquarters? Then Dr. Federico Mayer said, the address delivered by Swami Vivekananda in Chicago Parliament Religion was very, very significant, very important, and very useful and very important for the world. Now it has become much more important, because still we have not been able to say goodbye to fanaticism, sectarianism, and bigotry, as he had told. Not only that, now terrorism has also come in the name of religion. It is at this time, it is this juncture, we very much require the message of Swami Vivekananda of harmony of religions, which is the mainstay of Indian spiritual culture. So that is how. And just now, when I delivered the speech in the 7th Parliament of World Religion on 2nd November during Diwali celebration at Toronto, I referred to this speech of Dr. Federico Mayer, and I said, can you imagine 125th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda's Chicago addresses is being now celebrated all over the world in a still grander manner? Can you imagine? 125th anniversary of not a person but of a speech. What a wonderful speech he must have given, and it is very much relevant now. That is the speech with which the Indian culture became global. That is the speech with which the global impact of Indian spiritual culture started. And just now, as we heard from Sri Digant Vishwas Sharma ji, wonderful speech that he gave, he reminded us the words of Swami Vivekananda: up India and conquer the world. When Swami Vivekananda came back from America, he gave a clarion call: arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. And the whole country got awakened. And he gave a call that we must become independent. Forget all other gods and goddesses for the time being. The only goddess that we have to worship is our Mother India. And he also was, though he was not an astrologer, he was a visionary. He said, in 1897, he said, within 50 years, India shall become independent, but without waging a war. Nobody ever imagined that any country could get liberation without a war. Gandhiji had came later on in 2015, in 1915, but he told this in 1897, and exactly after 50 years, 1947, India became independent. Whatever Swami Vivekananda said came true. But what happened? After independence, we forgot the message of Swami Vivekananda. We forgot our spirit of patriotism. We forgot our love for the country. And we became self-centered and selfish. And that is, main, meri bibi, mera bachcha, mera makan, desh jai bhad mein. That was our tendency, and that is still our tendency. And that is why even after 70 years, we have not been able to fulfill the dream of Swami Vivekananda. What Swami Vivekananda said, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. What we did, we got aroused, we got awakened, we got independence, and then we went to sleep. Swami Vivekananda did not say, arise, awake, and go to sleep. No, he said, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. And what was the goal? The goal was not the freedom of India. The goal was not the independence of India. He wanted independence. He said freedom is the first condition of growth, but that was not the goal. What was the goal? Just now, as Digant Sharmaji told, that the goal, what Swamiji said, was up India and conquer the whole world by your spirituality, by your spiritual culture, not by atom bomb, not by nuclear bombs, but by spiritual culture. This is yet to be done. Gradually it is being done. Yoga and meditation becoming very popular all over the world. The Indian spiritual culture is spreading, but still we have come a long way. We have yet to go a long way. So that is why this the spiritual culture, the global culture of India still has to be spread far and wide. Then only India will become Vishwaguru, Jagat Guru, as prophesied by Swami Vivekananda, for which we will have to work hard. Not only that, not only from spiritual culture point of view, but every culture has got two parts: the inner core, the outer core, the software of it, the hardware of it. As far as the software is concerned, Indian culture is basically a spiritual culture. The inner core is spirituality, Vedanta. And what is Vedanta? Vedanta philosophy is the crux of Indian spiritual culture. What is Vedanta? To say briefly, Vedanta is consisting of two fundamental principles. Number one, divinity of the soul. Number two, the solidarity of the whole universe. What is divinity of the soul? Swami Vivekananda said that we have inside each and every human being there is a center of consciousness, the nature of which is Sat Chit Ananda, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, infinite existence. That is the birthright of each and every human being. And this is what he told in the parliamentary religions. He quoted Shweta Shvetropanishad and said, Shrunuvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha Aye Dhamani Divyani Tastu Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat Tameva Viditva Timritameti Nanya Pantha Viditayanaya. I have found the ancient one who is beyond all miseries. By knowing him alone, you shall be free from all miseries. That is the message that was given by Swami Vivekananda himself there. And then he told, my dear sisters and brothers of America, let me call you by this sweet name. What is that? Amritasya Putraha. Ye, the children of immortal bliss, holy and perfect beings. Ye, divinities and sinners. It is a sin to call a man so. It is a standing liable on human nature. Come up, O lions, and shake up the delusion that you are sheep. Your souls immortal, spirits free, blessed and eternal. Ye are not matter, ye are not bodies. Matter is the servant, not ye the servant of matter. This is the message he gave, the message of divinity of the soul. That gave lot of peace of mind. He told them, you are not sinner. No, you are divine. And that the message that he went on giving for 3.5 years in Europe, in America, in England. And everywhere he said, you are divine, you are divine. One day, an American lady stood up and said, Swamiji, Swami, you are trying to hypnotize us, always telling you are divine, you are divine. Swamiji said, Madam, I am not trying to hypnotize you. I am trying to dehypnotize you, because you are already hypnotized by thinking I am sinner, I am sinner, I am sinner, I am weak, I am weak. No, you are not sinner. You are divine, that is the first truth. You are divine, that is the second truth. You are divine, that is the last truth. That is Vedanta. Each soul is potentially divine, Swami Vivekananda said. The goal of human life is to manifest this divinity within by controlling the nature external and internal. This is either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines, dogmas, rituals, temples, churches, mosques are but secondary details. So this is the crux of the whole thing. The goal of life is to manifest the divinity. How? By controlling nature external and internal. How this can be done? By 4 methods: Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga. And each and every yoga is capable of taking you to the ultimate truth. But the best way, Swami Vivekananda says, is to combine all the 4 yogas. You know, in the field of management, they say if you want to have greater profit, you must have greater productivity. Greater productivity will come when you have maximum utilization of all the resources. So similarly, we have faculties, and if we have maximum utilization of all our faculties, then we will have better productivity. So we have hands to work. Why not work for the Lord? That is Karma Yoga. We have mind. So why not meditate with that mind? That is Raj Yoga. Well, we have also the brain. Why not think about the reality? And that is Jnana Yoga. And then we have also the heart. We want to give love. We want to receive love. We want to receive infinite love. That can come only from the Lord. And that is Bhakti Yoga. So the combination will mean maximum utilization of all our faculties. So Swami Vivekananda says, combine all the 4 yogas and manifest the divinity, and that is the purpose of human life. What happens when you manifest the divinity? You get infinite existence, infinite knowledge, infinite bliss. And in the process, in everyday life, you get happiness and peace. And that the whole world is now going for Indian spiritual culture. Why? It is this yoga. What is yoga? Yoga is not only yogasana. Yoga means unite, to get united. Yoga is the meeting point between individual consciousness and the universal consciousness. And this can be done in 4 ways: by meditation, Raj Yoga, prayer, Bhakti Yoga, the deep thinking, Jnana Yoga, and unselfish service, Karma Yoga. So combining these 4 yogas will lead us to the ultimate reality. And when you practice these 4 yogas in daily life, everyday life, in the daily life itself, we'll get happiness and peace. And we will get relief from the stress and strain, and we will get mental peace. The whole world is now in search of peace. The whole world is now full of tension. Now, not only now because of the coronavirus pandemic, the tension has gone up. But even otherwise also the tension was there. And when this wave will go, then also tension will remain because of various other reasons. And that is why what we have to do is that we have to practice these 4 yogas in daily life. And so this is the first truth of Vedanta. And what is the second truth of Vedanta? Solidarity of the whole universe. The whole world is one. Sarvam khalu idam brahma. Isha vastamidam sarvam. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tena taktena bhunji tha. Ma agrida kasya siddhanam. The Lord is permeated the whole universe. The whole universe is permeated by one universal consciousness. And so what you do? Isha vasamidam sarvam yatincha jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjitha. Enjoy the word. How? By renunciation. How can enjoy the word? By renunciation. You don't have to renounce your Mercedes-Benz car. You don't have to renounce your latest model Apple mobile. No. What you have to renounce is the attachment. What you have to renounce is the selfishness. What you have to renounce is the attachment. You must enjoy, but enjoy through renunciation of the attachment. So, tena taktena bhunjitha ma agrida kasya siddhanam. That is the message of trusteeship management given in our Upanishads, Ishavasya Upanishad, and this is the message of the Vedanta, and this is the message of Indian culture. that the whole world is permeated by the one universal consciousness. And now the modern quantum mechanics also says the same thing. Bell's theorem states that all the particles of the whole universe are interconnected at a deeper level. David Bohm, a Nobel Prize physicist, has experimentally proved Bell's theorem. Yes, it is a holistic universe. The whole world is united. And not only that, Erwin Schrödinger says consciousness is a singular of which the plural is unknown. Consciousness is a singular of which the plural is unknown. So, this is the holistic universe, and that is the message of Indian spiritual culture. So, India's spiritual culture is in conformity with the discoveries of the latest discoveries of the modern science. And most of the discoveries of the modern science were achieved by our ancient Indian culture. Already, some people say what India has given, what Indian culture has given, zero. Well, yes, but that zero is now the basis of decimal system. No computer will work without decimal system. So Einstein says that is a great contribution of Indian culture, India, zero. And we say that this theory of gravitation was discovered by Newton, but much before that, it was discovered by Bhaskaracharya. Look at the book Siddhant Shiromani, which is available in Benares Hindu University even today. He was from the 7th century. He has already given the principle of gravitation in that book, Siddhant Shiromani by Bhaskaracharya. Aryabhat and mathematics, trigonometry, geometry, algebra. In every field, India was the top. Architecture, sculpture, arts, fine arts, music, storytelling, games. In every field, India was on top of the world. Not only that, economically, it was called economic giant. Not only that, it was called Sone ki Chidiya, the golden bird. And that's why people used to come from all over the world to discover that gold. In fact, Columbus, this Parliament of Religions was convened in 1893 as a part of the Columbian Exposition that was held. After 400 years of finding out of America by Columbus, so in order to have that celebration, there was a Columbian Exposition. There were so many things, there were exhibitions, and a part of that, the Parliament of Religions was convened. But Columbus started in search of India and landed in America. So America should be grateful to India, because had there been no India, there would not have been to America. Not only that, Vasco da Gama later on came, and then he discovered India. And all the history says up to 17th century, India was on top of the world, till Britishers came and started taking away all our money. So the Indian spiritual culture does not mean it was lagging behind in any other field. Both software and hardware, both in the inner core and outer core, India was on the top of the world. And as on today also, India's spiritual culture, which is the inner core, the Vedanta, is also conquering the world, is also going global. At the same time, this hardware part of it, that is the hardware part of it, the outer core, that speaks of art, fine arts, sculpture, architecture, music, everywhere India is going forward. The Bollywood is competing with Hollywood. And can you imagine? It has more number of films to give and it is more popular all over the world. The films, the music. So even in other parts also, the hardware part of Indian culture and the software part, from both the types, both the parts, Indian speech, Indian culture, it is advancing, and the future belongs to Indian culture. Why? Because it is inclusive culture. It believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, as I told. It believes in Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. And because it is an age of globalization, there cannot be a compartmentalization based on the type of caste, creed, color, religion, or nationality. And because of the communication technology, it has become a global village. And so, global peace can only come when there is a global civilization. And global civilization will only come when Indian spiritual culture will go all over the world. So, Vivekananda was asked this question: you are a monk. Why should you always talk about Indian culture and India conquering the world? Why are you telling? He said, yes, for me, all the countries are same. But all the countries are now burning. They do not have peace of mind. There is strife, there is sectarism, there is bigotry, there is fundamentalism. They are all very much miserable. And I feel for their misery. I feel for the miseries of the whole world. I feel for the miseries of the American people. And all these miseries can be removed only if Indian spiritual culture can come. Why I want that Indian spiritual culture should conquer the world is to only save the whole world. And if it does not come, the world will not survive. Not possible. Materialism is coming forward in a big way. It has gone to a very high level, converging in consumerism, and now converging in affluenza. And the youth are committing suicide, becoming prey of schizophrenia. They are becoming prey of drug addiction. And that wave is coming from America and European countries to India. And Indian youth are blindly imitating Western materialist culture. What a paradox. What a paradox. While other countries and other cultures are trying to adopt the Indian culture, the benefits of Indian culture, our youth are destroying themselves in drug addiction, schizophrenia, suicide, while by blindly imitating Western materialistic culture. Swami Vivekananda said, I am global. I am open-minded. I do not believe. I say, yes, good things can be brought, should be always practiced. From wherever you get good things, you must take it. Don't take bad things. He said, be open-minded. But you must have discrimination. The power of discrimination. This, our Indian spiritual culture, is going to give peace of mind to others. And you are trying to blindly imitate that Western materialist culture. Because of it, the Western youth are dying out of suicide and schizophrenia and drug addiction and affluenza. You want to imitate that youth? I cannot thank enough Assam University for starting this lecture series on Indian culture. It's a monumental work you are doing. It's a historical work they are doing. This should have been done on 15th August 1947 when we got independence. It's a paradox. After 70 years, we are getting awakened. But anyway, better late than never. And I hope that the other universities will take a lesson from Assam University. And we'll have such lecture series. And we'll have youth study circles. And let the youth come forward. Not only listening is not of no use. Let the youth come forward and discuss as to how this Indian culture can help us in our studies, in our life, to get happiness and peace. How can we serve the people? How can we serve the nation? The product of Indian spiritual culture is service to mankind. Swami Vivekananda said, so far you had heard the mantras, Matru Deva Bhava, Pitru Deva Bhava, Acharya Deva Bhava, Atithi Deva Bhava. I am giving you additional mantras, Daritru Deva Bhava, Rogi Deva Bhava. This is the tremendous power, the powerful message which we get. Worship the Lord in the form of poor, worship the Lord in the form of this diseased. Had Swami Vivekananda been alive today, he would have talked about environment pollution. He would have talked about tree plantation. He would have talked about going to the villages once again. He wanted us to be spiritual. He wanted us to practice yoga and meditation. But he also said, yogi bhi bano, upyogi bhi bano. Simple yogi is not enough. And if you do not become upyogi, you are being a yogi. It will bring only happiness and peace to you. But real yogi always thinks about others' welfare, others' happiness, and works for it, prays for them. So that is the Indian spiritual culture. So I think I may have taken more time, but anyway, I am so very happy and I'm thankful to Assam University for giving me this opportunity, this rare opportunity of interacting with the people, with the students and the faculty members here. And I cannot thank enough the organizers for organizing such types of lecture series and for giving so much importance to Indian spiritual culture, which Swami Vivekananda wanted very much. And I am sure this series will awaken the interest in the minds of the youth to know more about Indian spiritual culture, and the youth will go forward and forward. As Swami Vivekananda said, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. And the goal is not the independence of India. Goal is not also becoming an economic superpower. Already we have become. No, the goal is to conquest of the whole world by Indian spiritual culture. The whole world now needs this spiritual culture for saving from the jaws of consumerism, upabhoktavad, from the jaws of affluenza, from the jaws of materialism, from the jaws of terrorism, which is a product of fundamentalism. And I'm sure the days are not far away. It's a very vast topic. In fact, you must be knowing about the cultural heritage of India. You can show that book. The cultural heritage of India has been brought out by the Institute of Culture, Gold Park. It is in 8 volumes. More than 8,000 pages are there in these 8 volumes. And now, fortunately, it is a very heavy. These are very heavy volumes. So for the students, the Advaita Ashram has brought out a subsidized edition, which you can get from Advaita Ashrama. So I would request all of you to go through the cultural heritage of India. There are various topics. So those who are interested in arts, they can go to art, they can go to music. Then there are various topics. Various volumes are connected with various topics. For example, the first volume is the early phases. Volume second, Itihas, Purana, drama, and other sastras. Third is the philosophies. Fourth is the religions. Fifth is languages and literature. Sixth is science and technology. Seventh, the arts, architecture, sculpture, music, fine arts, performing arts, dance, theatre, painting, etc. They are in 2 parts, A and B. And 8th is the modern India. And subsidized edition is there available of the 8 volumes. So I have just given a trailer. If you want to see the film, you have to go to the culture heritage of India. It's a very huge thing. It's a very vast topic. I have tried to touch the periphery of it. Once again, I thank the organizers. Thank you very much.
Dhanyavad, Maharaj-ji, for a wonderful deliberation within a very short point of time. We have a couple of questions in the chat box. I'll just convey these questions. One question from our participant. Will you please explain again the 4 yogas?
Yeah, sure. So, the 4 yogas are Raj Yoga, which is based on Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. Ashtanga Yoga it is called. So this Raj Yoga. Then second is the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is loving the Lord thy God with all thy strength, with all thy heart, with all thy mind. is loving the Lord, prayer, repeating the mantra, worshipping. All these come under Bhakti Yoga. Gyan Yoga is consisting of Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. That is trying to know our true nature. Who am I? Am I this body? No. Am I this mind? No. Am I this ego? No. Am I this intellect? No. Then who am I? Beyond all this, Manobuddha Chittani Ahankaranaham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So I am beyond this body-mind complex. I am that Atman, having that infinite power, that infinite potential. That is my true nature. Knowing this is Gyan Yoga. And fourth is Karma Yoga, converting each and every work into worship by seeing the divine in all, and try to do unselfish service to the possible extent. These are the four yogas. And Swami Vivekananda wanted every modern man to practice these four yogas for getting happiness and peace in their everyday life, and for reaching the infinite happiness and peace and immortal life. And he started Ramakrishna Mission also to preach this truth, Atmanu Mokshartham Jagadhitaya. And so he had an emblem. He himself designed an emblem where he said, harmony of four yogas we should go for. You must have seen that emblem of Ramakrishna Mission. This was designed by Swami Vivekananda himself. So what do you find there? There is one serpent. This serpent is the indicating of the Kundalini Shakti that moves from Muladhara to Sahasrara through the Sushumna. So when it reaches Sahasrara, then you have Samadhi, you reach the infinite knowledge, infinite existence, infinite bliss. That state is reached. How? When the Kundalini is awakened. When the Kundalini is awakened, it goes through the Sushumna in a serpentine manner. That is why the serpent denotes Kundalini Shakti or Raj Yoga. Then there is a lotus. This lotus indicates love or Bhakti Yoga. The waves of water are the waves of Karma or Karma Yoga. Then there is the sun that indicates Gyan Yoga. And there is Hansa. There is Hansa is equal to Paramhansa is equal to Paramatman is equal to the Lord. It is written there, Tanno Hansa Prachodayat. This is how the vision of the Lord is obtained. How? By combining four yogas: Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and Karma Yoga. This is what is the emblem says. So Swami Vivekananda said, Ramakrishna Mission, the main aim is to preach to mankind the divinity within and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. And that is given here in this emblem. So this is the four yogas, how we can practice them.
Another question, Maharaji, by another participant. What can be the procedure to stop the degeneration of Indian youth? Very few comes forward for Indian spiritual culture.
We kindly repeat the question, first part.
What can be the procedure to stop the degeneration of Indian youth?
Indian
Youth.
Yeah. It's very nice question. Very nice question. As I told you just now, the modern youth are going for blind imitation of Western materialistic culture, and we must take good things from the West. You know, Swami Ranganathananji, he was the 13th president of Ramakrishna Mission. He was a globetrotter, and he used to give lectures all over the world. For 18 times he went for world lecture tours. He was the cultural ambassador, official cultural ambassador of India. Anyway, he had a friend in Japan. He had come to India. Then he said, you see, we produce a lot of watches, but we have one watch per family. And here I find everybody wearing a watch. Even a rickshaw puller is also wearing a watch. And if you ask the rickshaw wala, what is the time? Dekh liye ji, babu. He doesn't know how to see the time, but it's an ornament for him. So he is wearing watch. And then the Japanese person, that Japanese friend, beautifully said, everybody keeping watch, nobody keeping time. Nobody keeping time. Now, this punctuality is a great virtue of the Western culture. When I went to Western countries, I found, when I went to Switzerland, at one place I had to take a bus. And then I said, the bus is 3 minutes late, 5 minutes late. I said, what? Here also buses are late. Then I asked somebody, I said, this bus of 3:43 has not yet come. He said, it came exactly at 3:43. There was no passenger. It stopped for 30 seconds. It left. I was late only by 1 minute. My God. Then I said, they meant 3:43 means 3:43. It cannot be 3:43, 3:44. So, such wonderful punctuality. But we, here Indian Standard Time is means 1 hour late minimum. Then only you are really VIP. So, these are the things we can learn from Western culture. Western culture is not bad in itself. There are so many things we can learn. But no, we are taking only the bad things from there. So we have to discriminate. I will just advise the modern youth, you take whatever is good from the Western materialistic Western culture, but don't take materialism. Don't take bad things from there. Don't take those things because of which the youth there are suffering because of suicide and drug addiction and schizophrenia. You have to be, at least little thoughtful. In Bengali, there is a proverb. কেউ দেখে শিখে, কেউ ঠেকে শিখে, কেউ ঠেকেও না শিখে. Three types of people. কেউ দেখে শিখে. Some people, they learn by others' experience. কেউ ঠেকে শিখে. These people, they do not learn by others' experience. They learn by their own experience. Let me fall down. And when they fall down, no. Now I will not go to that side. But the third people, ঠেকেও না শিখে. Again and again they are falling into the ditch, and again they are going to the ditch. Our modern youth are the third type. Again they are going, they are becoming miserable, and yet they are going again into that pit. So let us be a little more intelligent and try to see that we don't follow blindly. We should not follow blindly. We should not imitate Western materialistic culture. And we have great things of Indian culture. And I think this lecture series, if they listen, if they do not listen, nothing can happen to them. But if they listen, I'm very much sure there will be a paradigm shift in that thinking. And then once they learn about Indian culture, well, they little learn about the real yoga, not only yogasana, and they start getting peace of mind, gradually they will turn to Indian spiritual culture. And when they practice it, and when they will get the benefits, and then their friends will learn from them. And likewise, Jyot se Jyot jale, one lamp igniting another lamp, a chain reaction will gradually come. I'm sure about that.
Thank you,